Dr. Garrett showed you all of those CDC maps that were changing. We literally have a tsunami of obesity. It's going to devastate us. It is already. It's going to wipe out our healthcare capacity to care for people. So the question is it really killing us? Is it just a preference, or do we really need to take it seriously that when we eat a lot of carbs, it can actually kill us? Because we're getting fat for a reason, and of course this is what they tell you, calories a calorie, you're just lazy, eat less, move more. And I was like, I could do that for a while, but then the hormones just, I would give up after a period of time and gain it all back, because this is what they've told us since the 70s we should eat, right? And I sort of had some of that, but this is what I really ate, right? I am one of those carb addictive personalities. When I eat these hyper palatable foods that they have literally have chemists who their job is to find the bliss point, that point of satiety or satisfaction you get temporarily when you have a combination of the right fats and carbs and whatever else they put in there, the seasonings, that you just can't eat one. Have you ever had that yellow bag? You know what I'm talking about? Just can't eat one. It is actually science. It's not just that they thought, and look, notice the colors of those bags. That is the color of fruit in nature that causes animals to seek it out, which happens once a year. So these bags are these colors for a reason. Now we've got micronutrients that are important for us. We don't want a low sodium level, we don't want a low potassium level or too high. But let's talk about what happens when you today eat your lunch today. And by the way, that woman that had the candy bar in her hand with the picture, who used to think about food every single day for every single minute of her, and I would wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I would go into the kitchen because he was asleep, and I think I was doing a good job hiding it, but he'd find the butter knife and the peanut butter and stuff. But when we eat food, it starts to digest, it goes through a process, and it is literally an instruction manual. It's a book, and the food says to your body, release this, suppress that, do this, do that, do this. So what we eat is driving our bodily functions, but I never knew. I never knew this. So when we look at what's, there you go, what are the carbs? How many of you, excuse me, what are the macros? How many of you have heard about macros? You're like, okay, what's a macro? It's the word short for macronutrients, because in medicine we never say the whole word if we can make it short. Myocardial infarction is MI, that's a heart attack. So we always short things. So macro is macronutrients, there's three: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So if I take away, if I go on a low-fat diet, I only have two left, right? So I have to use those. So when this whole low-fat craze came out with that experiment that we've done on humanity here in the US about the food pyramid, in order to make something palatable, they had to increase the carbohydrates. There was no other way to do it. So things aren't flavorful without fat. You tell me, you try to eat a big old ribeye steak, and at the end of that, tell me you've got room for something else. Because the fat satisfies you. Fat is important. In fact, we have essential fatty acids. Fats break down. So if I think about breaking it into little sticks, I have a big stick and I break it down into little sticks, it breaks down into fatty acids. And there's essential fatty acids I have to have, or I will get a certain type of disease and I will die. They don't really, and Dr. Garrett did a really good job talking about what causes insulin spikes or not. They don't really spike hardly at all. Insulin. Protein breaks down into, these would be your meats. Fats, I think you guys get it. That's your butter, your lard, your ghee, olive oil, all that stuff. Proteins, these would be your meats. These break down into amino acids. And there are essential amino acids that you have to have because they're necessary for life. And that's why some of the vegans who don't carefully craft their meals end up with illnesses and not feeling good after 6 months to a year, because they're not really vegetarians, they're carbitarians. If all they ate was vegetables and they crafted what else they ate, they'd probably be healthier, but yeah, I could tell you whole stories, but I won't. And you can get a little tiny spike, but protein will never turn into chocolate cake inside your body, so don't worry about that whole gluconeogenesis, don't worry about that. But let's talk about the culprit in this story, and you've heard this over and over today. Carbohydrates break down into glucose, and fructose is its own person like we were talking about. They do spike your insulin. How many times have you guys, pre-keto, gone through and gotten a mocha, you have a donut with orange juice for breakfast, and you like this, I just feel great. and then your blood sugar crashes and you're driven to eat again. It's all related to this blood sugar spike and the insulin's response. Insulin's major job is to take those glucose molecules out of your bloodstream and store them. They're not necessary for life. Our body can make its own carbohydrates, its own glucose, I should say, in a process called gluconeogenesis, and there aren't any, none, no essential carbs. So we would never have heard of the Eskimos because they wouldn't have been able to live up in the Arctic, Antarctic, or wherever they live. So what's keto? You guys all know this, I'm preaching to the choir. Keto diet is simply a diet that restricts carbohydrates enough that I start accessing the fat from here, okay, or here. I'm tired of mine accessing fat from here. We've got to have a talk. It's like, I haven't eaten since last night at about 7. I'm not hungry, and I just know where it's coming from. No, take it from there. Okay, so I digress. You can cut that out. All right, so what it means is I've decreased my glucose enough, my incoming glucose, that I'm not automatically having that to use for fuel. And my body looks around and goes, huh, look at all these stored calories. Here, 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 here. Here's all these stored calories. And so what it does is it pulls those out of our fat stores, because that's all it is. Your fat is simply your savings account of calories in case you're in a famine. Our body doesn't know there's drive-thrus. It doesn't know you can go to Lowe's for a 2x4 and get some Skittles and a Coke. It thinks this may be the last meal I ever see. She doesn't need it, I'm gonna store it. And that's insulin's job, is to store that so that we can survive a famine. It just is how we have survived. So what we're gonna do when we change what's on the end of our fork is we're gonna have our insulin levels low, which Dr. Garrett and Dr. Westman both talked about. And the body goes, well, thank you. This has been locked away, earning interest for a long time. And it goes to the liver. The body breaks it open into ketone bodies. We're a hybrid car. We don't just operate on glucose. We just didn't know or never gave ourselves a chance to decrease enough that we tap into our fat. And I don't need to tell you what it is. I do win, Dr. Garrett. I win. Because I get 98 names for sugar, for hidden sugar. And big food is sneaky. I eat a lot of processed food, but this is my processing. It's a joke. I buy Whole Foods and I chop it up. We go out, people have these huge bins of trash on the pickup day. My husband walks out with this tiny little bag, because what we eat are whole foods. We eat the natural stuff. We don't, if there's more than 2 or 3 ingredients on it, you probably need to consider, is it one of these? Are they hiding it somewhere? So just for an example, I'm channeling Dave Feldman. If any of you don't follow him, you should. That's my hand against a thing of fruit snacks. No, I didn't buy them. I'm in a hotel for a meeting, and I pulled that out, and I thought, you know, I could eat that and just like that. That would be gone in 2 or 3 minutes. Flip it over on the back, and I want you to look in that tiny bag how many servings there are. 2.5. How many carbs? 23. So this is about a little bit less than 60 carbs in a tiny bag of snacks. Will that give me satiety? I don't eat that in 3 days. I don't eat that many carbs in 3 days. The ubiquitous ketchup, be careful, because they put sugar in it. Don't know how true this is, but I like the photo. See the blue line? Be careful of the added components to that. So this is why we get hungry after we eat carbs. You consume them, blood sugar up. Body turns it into sugar, the blood sugar goes up. Insulin gets a tweet, it gets a text message. Oh my God, she ate again. And so insulin goes, I'm on my way. Insulin comes into the picture and it says, let me take you out of the bloodstream. And my blood sugar goes like that. I feel it. I feel compelled to eat again. And again, and again, and again. I probably didn't go 1 hour, 1 waking hour when I was eating the standard American diet without eating something, And the first time I sort of, one day I'd been low carb for maybe a week, and somebody said something and I looked and I said, oh my God, I haven't eaten in 6 hours. Ali said that food many times is not an issue with me because I don't have this hormonal. I wasn't weak. I was compelled by the hormones I was releasing based on what I ate. I wasn't a weak person. I was just responding to this. So this is where we want you to stay, that nice, safe, normal glucose where it's not spiking up real big, it's not causing that slump, you're not feeling compelled to eat all the time. It's a nice, stable glucose level. Because how many of you have ever been on a roller coaster? It scares the crap out of you, right? You're like, all right. But when you live that 24/7, you get weary. I was tired, I was depressed, I was putting on a good face. And many times I would get so hangry because as my blood sugars drop, I would literally start to drip the sweat. I would get shaky, sweaty, confused, grumpy, ask Clarence, grumpy. So I would eat, and I'd feel better for a little while, but I was eating carbs. So Dr. Garrett talked about this. It's the master hormone. Its main job is really just to maintain a normal glucose, and it can do that much easier if I don't keep putting glucose in. It doesn't evaporate. When the insulin that they start to have you inject, or when you eat a lot, that glucose can get out of the bloodstream for a long period of time, but it doesn't just evaporate. It's stored, okay? And it's stored, it's offered. Hey, liver, you need some? How about the brain? Muscles, do you need? She is sitting at a desk typing on a computer. No, I don't need anything. I haven't moved. All right? So what's needed is stored. And the one way that I found, at least, and I think many of you in the room, that we can have this work for us is keeping our insulin low. Because without insulin there, by keeping my blood sugar stable, by not ingesting more carbs, everything gets easier. So please don't be afraid, if you're new here, to enter the low carbs. Don't be afraid. Because really, more and more studies are coming out. They put rats in these little cages and they offered them cocaine water and they offered them sugar water. Guess which one they wanted? The sugar, compared to cocaine, really? Okay. So the problem is actually with sugar. How many of you have kids or grandkids? Clarence and I have 10 grandbabies, and you've ever given them something sugary. Where does it stick? To everything. Or you spilled something on the, and you sort of halfway wipe it up off the floor and then your feet go. Sugar is sticky, and that makes it tricky. Right? I am funny. It's such a tiny thing. So I'm going to move into a little bit of inflammation. How many of you ever had a splinter in your finger? It's a tiny thing. But do you know it's there? You know it's there because when we have damage to our body, we have this amazing mechanism called inflammation. And it starts to fight off bacteria. If bacteria have been introduced, it sets off sort of like this sunburn type of thing. Think of sunburn as an inflammation. But inside my finger, my body's going, oh my God, that shouldn't be there. Oh my God, that shouldn't be. And really, listen carefully. Put your finger up to your ear and you'll hear it. It's going, that shouldn't be there. And if I remove it, things settle down. And it doesn't hurt after, just a little bit. But if I leave it in, if I don't remove the splinter, the cause of the inflammation, it starts to get red, it starts to get very puffy, and you can actually get a very bad infection. So when we think about sugar being sticky, what's interesting, and this is a severe, I know, poor Great Dane, I want you to think of when we consume glucose, not only does it stick to the table and stick a lollipop to their head, it sticks to all the different proteins inside your body. It literally jams onto it and it causes an inflammatory response. When we have a little bit of sugar, a little bit of inflammation. So this inflammation is natural, it's normal. I need it to happen. That's how I fight off strep throat or how I know that I have a splinter in my finger. But ongoing inflammation is very detrimental to our health. And the inflammation can be insidious. You don't really know it. You don't notice it. It can become chronic. And just like Dr. Garrett said, it ultimately connects all of the chronic diseases in some way or another that we're dealing with. And removing it, taking out the splinter, is often the key to reduced inflammation. So it can fuel our health, or feed our health or fuel our problems. This has been gone over a lot. I won't belabor it, about diabetes. But I do want to take a few minutes and talk to you about why do you not want to be diabetic? Why do you want to manage, or even pre-diabetic? Because these problems of inflammation happen early before you ever get the official diagnosis. It impacts every body system. I didn't even list them all. I would have to I'll just stand here. It impacts everything. all right? All of me. Every single system in my body is impacted if I have diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, which is what most, even young children though unfortunately are being diagnosed with that, is basically carbohydrate intolerance. How many of you know somebody with a peanut allergy? Or you've heard of it, and they have to carry an EpiPen with them. We never say to them in the medical community, go ahead and eat that PBJ, but just take that EpiPen. But we tell, work with me now, we tell our type 2 diabetics, have those carbs, cover yourself with insulin. And the damage continues and continues and continues. So it only masks the problem, they cause weight gain. Maybe instead, let's just change what we eat. So let's start with blood glucose. Blood glucose, when it's, our circulatory system needs blood flow. Every cell in our body needs blood flow. And what happens, I've got my little demo thing here. What happens is that glucose in the blood, like Dr. Garrett said, and I think Ollie said it as well, I have really exotic preps. I have such a big budget for my preps. I want you to think of my little frisbee here as a red blood cell, all right? And these red blood cells' job, the white little balls here, is to carry oxygen, my hemoglobin molecule. And oxygen gets on the bus, and it gets off the bus and on the bus. I breathe, it brings in the groceries, it takes out the trash, and the oxygen's on and off. Some of that oxygen, some of that glucose in the bloodstream, there we go, is going to stick to the hemoglobin molecule because it's a protein. Remember, sugar sticks to everything that's inside our body as protein. And so now I've got 3 seats on the bus for oxygen. This is just an example. And I've got 1 seat taken up by glucose. And where the oxygen is getting on and off multiple times a minute, once this glucose is stuck to my red blood cell, it does not get off ever until the red blood cell dies. And the average lifespan of a red blood cell, how much time do I have left? 10 minutes, I'm doing great. The average lifespan of a red blood cell is 3 months, and that's why your doctor checks your hemoglobin A1C. Because what they're really doing is they're checking to see how many seats on the bus have been taken up by glucose. The higher that number is, the more inflamed you are. All right? And these red blood cells, they travel through the capillaries, the very tiniest arteries in our blood vessels in our body, and they literally are meant to barely fit through. Right? When they're inflamed, when they have all this sugar sticking to them, and I'll show you this next slide, it starts to, and this is very basic, clog up your capillaries. It starts to change them, and they're not working well. So instead of having just a few on there, it's going to have a lot of them. It takes up more space, and it's very medically inaccurate, but I just want you to grab the concept that when my red blood cell is clogged up with too much glucose, which stays on the bus for how long? 3 months. I'm changing the ability for my body to oxygenate my tiny capillaries and pick up my waste products. And it's all because of what I eat. So it attaches to it. Some attachment is normal. It does not get off the bus till it dies. Average lifespan 3 months. And the term glycate or glycosylation is a medical term for it's sticky. Everything in my body, all the proteins, the linings of my vessels become glycated. They become sticky and inflamed. So diabetics end up with what they call macro and microvessel disease. Both the big vessels are impacted and the tiny capillaries. What does that mean to us? If we want to avoid diabetes or we're type 2 and we're trying to manage it, it means that the further it is from my heart or the tinier the blood vessel, the more likely I'm going to start to have reduced flow. And reduced flow means less oxygen. So it happens to my diabetics in their feet. It happens to the bones in their feet. It happens to the bones in your large bones. These tiny capillaries that need to go in to feed your bone marrow are going to start to quickly start to be less optimized. It happens to our nerves. If you've ever known anybody that can't feel their feet, it's called neuropathy. The tiny capillaries start to die. Then you can't feel. You don't know you're stepping on hot pavement. I can't tell you how many patients we've amputated because they go out in the summer on asphalt and burn their feet. They just can't tell. Happens to our eyes, all of us. You can get retinopathy. And retinopathy means that these tiny little blood vessels in the back of my eyes start to not have perfusion or blood flow. The area around it dies. My daughter Rachel, type 1 diabetic for 35 years, went on keto. Her next ophthalmology appointment, they were dilating her for retinopathy, and the doctor leaned back, looked at her chart, leaned back and looked at her because she'd started to have tiny retinopathy changes. And she looked in her eye again, and she goes, oh my God, it's gone. And Rachel's like, what do you mean? And she's like, your retinopathy, those little dark spots, you've grown new vessels there. And Rachel doesn't know. She's like, is that okay? and the lady, her doctor, started crying. So Rachel thought she thinks I'm really stupid. I asked her a question, now she's sobbing. And the doctor said, the ophthalmologist said, no, my 11-year-old daughter is a type 1 diabetic. And I have been worried that she's going to go blind. You've given me hope. You've given me, is there a big randomized controlled trial? No, but anecdotally, she's doing great. So, and also kidneys, I won't belabor that, you guys understand. I hope you do that diabetes is the #1 cause of renal failure. They're almost as common as Starbucks, these renal dialysis centers that we see. And then Alzheimer's. If you haven't read Amy Berger's book, The Alzheimer's Antidote, I recommend you get that. It's a really great book talking about Alzheimer's and the brain. They're sort of saying it's so inflamed. Think of that splinter. Think of glucose as being that splinter. I won't have time to read this to you, but it talks about all these different things that we can do. And guess where I got this really nice schematic? A CPA firm. Because they're trying to help their people live a healthy life as they're looking towards retirement. And none of us want problems. I won't belabor fatty liver. Dr. Garrett did a nice job, and I've got some great pictures, so let's go through it quick. Liver, next to your brain, is one of the biggest organs. It's right under your right rib cage. Your gallbladder's underneath. Yes, you can do keto if you don't have a gallbladder. I've not had one for 25 years. And there's a little bit of fat. It does all these things. It detoxifies, it synthesizes things, it stores some of our vitamins, including glycogen. But when we overconsume figs, if we're in Egypt and I'm a goose, my goose would be cooked. Because what happens is fructose or high fructose corn syrup or fruit juices starts to overwhelm the liver. The liver can metabolize it, but it can't metabolize it at the rate we're currently eating it or drinking it. So it impacts the liver. I won't belabor that, he talked about that. So you've heard of visceral fat, or you've heard about how important your waist to hip circumference is. That's because if we store fat in our abdomen, including our liver and our pancreas, it gets to be a big problem. I'm not going to go over all that. It used to be, when I graduated from nursing school, and even up until 10 years ago, the only time I really saw someone with cirrhosis or problems with their liver, they were a drinker. They were an alcoholic, and they killed their liver, because alcohol also metabolizes only in the liver, basically. Now, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is rampant, to the point that current projections are in the next 15 years, we won't have enough healthy people to give liver transplants. It's a big deal, it's a tsunami, and it can progress. I won't belabor that. So that's a healthy liver, this is a fatty liver. It actually takes up more space, like my bum. I had a lady ask me once, she goes, does it make you shorter? I'm like, I don't think so. Why do you ask? And she goes, well, my pants are just dragging on the floor when I walk now. And I'm like, I said, oh honey, there's less junk in your trunk. It used to stick out, now it hangs down, so it's yeah. But anyway, so fatty liver can be reversed. If you get into this steatohepatitis or actually cirrhosis that's more problematic, grab it now. If you ever want another reason to know why you don't want to continue to eat carbs, you don't want it to go from healthy to that. And it's beyond weight loss. That's why we start. That's why I started. And I sat in my first conference like this, and I looked down at my sister and my daughter. I said, I will never, ever look at food the same way. I had no idea the power that it has. I just didn't know. And when you know that, you can plan for special events. What are we getting ready to face? The slippery slope, and it's always happening. Well, I'm going to have some because it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's, Easter, etc. Somebody's always having a birthday. If you understand that eating that is no different if I was a peanut allergy than taking in peanuts, hopefully it'll help you make better choices, because this woman, I'll not go back. I can make my own treats if I need them. I won't go back to that because I have been set free, and I want the same for each of you. This is what happens, or what's happened to us since we used to eat a little bit of carbs and we ate mostly, yeah, she's gonna. So this is what's happened. In the 70s, they gave us our eating plan.
You're fired.
So we used to eat a little bit of carbs, and our body could handle it. We used to have a fruit. Our body could handle it. It would wrap it up, it would deal with it, and say, oh, life is so good. It's all excellent, FDA. I mean, the food, yeah, they came out with a new food pyramid. And we're like, okay, so fat's bad. All right, I'm going to start changing what I eat. And you're like, and your body's like, wait a minute. Oh no, what do I do with all this incoming glucose? I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to put it places. I don't, it's too much, slow it down, oh my God. Oh no, now I'm starting to be diabetic, and so what are they going to do? Lowe's carries it. It's faster, it's everywhere now. So now it's in abnormal places. It shouldn't be there. Oh no. Eventually we're going to be diagnosed diabetic, right? Because we can't handle it anymore. And so we go to the doctor, and the doctor says, uh-oh, guess what? You're diabetic. They were classic, weren't they? And so the doctor says, I've got the answer. I'm going to put you on insulin.
Fine, you're doing splendidly. Speed up!
So, I will close with this. So, you're in charge of your life and your health now that you're informed. Thank you so much for your time.